Today we're talking about, you know what it is, the Facebook outage and the whistleblowers' revelations on how Facebook operates. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions going around about this, and I want to make it absolutely clear that people are missing the point here because it has nothing to do with people just, not being able to log on to Facebook or Instagram for a few hours. It is much bigger than that. And when you combine it with the outage and what the whistleblower is revealing, we're going to see that there is something much more sinister going on indeed that affects humanity as a whole and leads to the degradation of humanity's mind, your mind, and ultimately will result in a world that will be a very scary place to live in. And we can see it happening more and more every day around us right now. So we're going to take a look and see what the Facebook outage and whistleblowers' revelations actually really reveal and what we can do to fix it and take back our minds and the world at large. It's going to be a good one. Let's talk about this. This is important. What Facebook's outage and the whistleblowers' revelations really reveal. And this is going over the heads of many people because, we had that Facebook outage where Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp were all down for something like 6 hours or maybe longer, something like that. And I saw a lot of people posting comments like, you guys are all crybabies. You just couldn't log into your social media accounts for a few hours. Boo hoo hoo hoo. You shouldn't be so addicted to that anyway. So this is completely missing the point. Of course, it's fine to take social media breaks for a while. But here's the thing. And when I'm going to explain this and then also what it has to do with the whistleblowers' revelations and how it all ties together and how it shows something much more sinister going on. Because the issue isn't that, I wasn't able to check my Facebook feed for a few hours. The issue is that Facebook has a growing monopoly on forms of communication. Now, there are some places in the world that absolutely rely on a platform such as WhatsApp as their main source of communication. So imagine for people who live in situations like that, if for 6 hours or whatnot, just imagine that would be like just forms of communication being cut off in general. It would be like your phone being turned off, the phones of your loved ones, the phones of your coworkers, etc., all being turned off. You suddenly wouldn't be able to contact people you love. You wouldn't be able to contact, let's say, your doctor. You wouldn't be able to contact coworkers. You wouldn't be able to contact. So you get the idea. You wouldn't be able to contact your friends. You wouldn't be able to contact your family. You wouldn't be able to contact your coworkers. It's a big deal. So we have this company that's growing and growing in power. And what it really is doing is gaining a monopoly over forms of communication and also social media in general, which allows for very powerful in shaping human consciousness. Because when you have this much power, you are able to shape world events. People are coordinating on your platform. You are being able to have control over communication. And all of these issues ultimately lead to the rich elite gaining more and more control over humanity and how consciousness is shaped. And we're going to see this more and more because, again, this is a much bigger issue than Facebook. It's a worldwide issue stemming from corporations taking over and catering to the agenda of a capitalistic system and the rich elite, and this results in the degradation and decay of humanity's mental faculties. This results in the decay of the mind, and we're going to see exactly how and exactly why. And I want to start things off, though, with reading a quote from AOC, because regardless of how you feel about AOC, this is a very important quote. It's almost as if Facebook's monopolistic mission to either own, copy, or destroy any competing platform has incredibly destructive effects on free society and democracy. See, this is the issue. This isn't just about, I couldn't log into my account. It's degrading effects on free society as a whole and the consciousness of the world. We're going to get into that more, but continuing the quote, if Facebook's monopolistic behavior was checked back when it should have been, perhaps around the time it started acquiring competitors like Instagram, The continents of people who depend on WhatsApp and Instagram for either communication or commerce would be fine right now. Remember, WhatsApp wasn't created by Facebook. It was an independent success. Facebook got scared and bought it. Latin America lives on WhatsApp. I am surprised by so many people underestimating how catastrophic this downfall has been. If Facebook's monopolistic behavior was checked back when it should have been, the continents, oh, I read that part already, sorry. Facebook as a basic communications platform, while also selling ads and also being a surveillance platform. So Facebook, and that includes everything Facebook owns, right? Because Facebook's a monopoly, it has Facebook, it has Instagram, it has Messenger, it has WhatsApp. So it's a basic communications platform, but it also sells ads, and it's also a surveillance platform. And AOC says those functions should be broken up. Do you see the conflict of interest here? Because you have a platform which is a basic communications platform. This is a platform that is basic communications that people rely on, but it's also selling ads and surveillance as in acquiring people's information. Do you see a conflict of interest where you own something that is just some basic communications platform, but it's being run and guided by advertisers, by money? And it gets even more nefarious than this, because we're going to look at, and I'm going to talk more than just about Facebook, but just social media in general, because ultimately all social media caters to advertisers. And when you see how much social media, not only is it just a basic information platform or a basic communications platform, but it shapes consciousness. Why? Because it is designed to be addictive, because the longer you are on it, the more time that you spend on it, which means the more time that you spend watching ads, which means more money in their pockets. So they want you to be on it for as long as possible. It's designed to be addictive. So it's designed to suck your time away. Also, the things that it shows you are designed to keep you glued to it. So it is this sort of system that infects your mind and fills it not with knowledge, not with actualization, not with anything that actually gives you a better life experience, but simply that which keeps you glued to the platform, like an addiction. It would be like pumping someone with drugs, like, coke or meth or heroin or something like that, just pumping someone with drugs just to keep them stuck there and in that frame of mind. You see what I mean? Even though it might feel good, it doesn't mean it's healthy for you and can actually be extremely, extremely destructive. We're going to see more and more how it does this. And because I am a social media creator, so I know what you have to do to please the algorithms. And guess what? It's not about providing the best information. It's about getting people to watch. And of course, I tried to also put information in there, and then also I do videos that are just pure information, but guess what? Those videos don't do as well. Like one of my videos that's extremely important, 10 proofs for the existence of God refuted, extremely important video. But of course, it's not going to get as many views as something like, oh, what Jim Carrey was really talking about. But you see, even in videos like that, what Jim Carrey is really talking about. Am I just talking about Jim Carrey and celebrity? No, I'm sneaking in information about the ontological structure of reality. But anyway, we're going to talk more about that and how, me being in this as a content creator, I see how it works. Okay, and so I can verify a lot of what this whistleblower is saying, being on the creative side of these platforms. But continuing on what AOC says, then this was a quote to, AOC posted this as a caption on their Instagram. She said, while we're at it, it's also why Facebook pushed out the Reels feature in an attempt to kill the Clock app. The same way they use stories to nerf the, and then she does emojis of a ghost and a camera app. And it's also why I feel a need to use code words and emojis to describe their competitors, so this post doesn't immediately get nerfed by Facebook's algorithm. So when she talked about the Clock app, she meant TikTok. And when she did this, the ghost and camera emoji, she's talking about Snapchat. But you see, how nefarious it is. That now it's a basic form of communication. Someone like AOC is trying to get information out there, but they can't even speak about it without using code words because of fear of getting nixed by the, big brother Facebook. And you see, this is absolutely true, because you notice, as I said, I usually stream these videos to both Facebook and YouTube. I had to shut down my Facebook feed. And this is why we're only streaming to YouTube right now, because I'm being critical of Facebook. You have to be extremely, extremely careful about what you say on these platforms. And that should be a huge red flag when you cannot be critical of the platform that you're on without being afraid of being nixed when it's becoming. And you see, it wouldn't matter so much if it was just one platform. It was like, oh, well, that's fine. Just go on a different platform then. But the problem is that when a company becomes more and more powerful, it can eventually own all forms of communication. And then what are you going to do then? What are you going to do now? And also, it wouldn't be a problem if the people who owned it, or the organization that owned it, was a benevolent, compassionate, altruistic entity with the benefit of humanity in mind. But are they? Hell no! They're there to please the advertisers. They're just a cog in the capitalistic machine. So, we're going to take a look at what the whistleblower said now. And I want to emphasize, because we looked at the outage, and I want you to see again how this is way more than just like, oh, boo-hoo, you didn't get to check your Instagram for a few hours. Who cares about that? That's not the issue here. That's not the issue. It's the power that the company has over basic forms of communication and their ability to shape humanity's consciousness, and not with the good of the people, but to create a system that's designed to be addictive, to suck your mind away and just keep you glued to a platform, to rake in more advertisers and rake in more profit due to that. So let's take a look now and combine that with what the whistleblower said, and then put it all together, and then show what we can do about it, and what we can build a new world to properly utilize the power of social media for the good. Because social media isn't bad in of itself. It's how you use it. Just like almost anything. The thing itself is not bad. Social media is very powerful. It becomes bad and toxic when it's in the hands of a capitalistic corporate vampire. So let's continue here. I want to check out some of what the whistleblower said. And we'll bring this up so everyone can see as well. So last week, the Wall Street Journal published internal research from Facebook showing that the social media company knows precisely how toxic its own product is for the people who use it. But tonight we learned how the journal obtained these documents. A whistleblower named Frances Haugen, who spoke with 60 Minutes about the ways Facebook is poisoning society. The 37-year-old whistleblower liberated tens of thousands of pages of documents from Facebook and even plans to testify to Congress at some point this week. Haugen has filed at least 8 complaints with the SEC alleging that Facebook has lied to shareholders about its own product. Fundamentally, Haugen alleges that there's a key conflict between what's good for Facebook and what's good for society at large. At the end of the day, things that are good for Facebook tend to be bad for the world we live in, according to Haugen. We've pulled out some of the most terrifying tidbits. Okay, so here's one. So it's that Facebook's algorithm intentionally shows users things to make them angry. So Haugen explained in 60 Minutes how Facebook's algorithm chooses content that's likely to make users angry because that causes the most engagement. And user engagement is what Facebook turns into ad dollars. Its own research is showing that content that is hateful, that is divisive, that is polarizing is easier to inspire people to anger than it is to other emotions. Haugen told 60 Minutes. Facebook has realized that if they change the algorithm to be safer, people will spend less time on the site, they'll click on less ads, and they'll make less money. So do you see the problem? And again, the issue is that not only is this a problem with Facebook, but it's becoming, a lot of social media works in the same way. And Facebook is becoming more and more and more powerful by trying to buy out these other companies, by trying to become, the major forum of social media and communications in general. And you see how they are able to shape society and shape consciousness. And they are doing so by injecting angry, divisive content that is tearing people apart. And they don't have the good of humanity in mind. It's simply to make money to please the advertisers because it results in more engagement. Now, there is one caveat that I want to say here, because Haugen's point is that Facebook shows people, and I want to be fair, Facebook shows people content that incites them to anger. That's what Haugen is claiming. Now, Mark Zuckerberg responded to this. So Zuckerberg said that this isn't true because advertisers don't want their content next to controversial topics. But you know what? Guess what? Zuckerberg is right. Because again, I'm a content creator, so I basically know what flies and what doesn't fly. So what Haugen is saying is that Facebook pushes angry content and that incites people to anger. Zuckerberg is saying, no, advertisers don't want to be associated with controversial topics. That doesn't make sense. The truth is actually somewhere in the middle. What it does is it does prefer things that are that kind of get people riled up, but not too much. Not too much. It also likes feel-good content as well. So it's sort of this. It's sort of in the middle. You cannot post, and this is true, you can't post stuff that's too controversial. That's why there are so many things that I would like to be talking about that's going on in the world that I can't because my account would be gone. Or it would just be shown to nobody. For example, and this is not there's stuff going on in the Middle East, there's stuff happening all over the world. Even to do with religion, I'd like to talk about RTS in more detail, etc., that I can't talk about because social media will pull my account or show it to nobody. But just case in point, just to show you how crazy they are, is that, I did a video on Lil Nas X. And you can watch it on YouTube, but guess what? It got shadow banned on Facebook. It got over 5 million views in one day, and then Facebook shadow banned it. It went from 5 million to not being shown to anybody. And it's because they said this topic was controversial. And of course, how silly it is, just because someone made a music video that has Satan in it, is that super, compare that controversy to things that are going on in the Middle East and all the other stuff that I'd like to talk about. I can't even talk about, fucking Lil Nas X, let alone some of the topics I really want to talk about. So, here's the issue. Haugen is generalizing a little bit. Facebook doesn't want to push controversial issues, but they do like people to stay engaged, whether that's because they're angry or because they're having a good time. If they're angry, it can't be too controversial. But here's the idea. Regardless, it's bad. If they push content that makes people angry, it causes division. But if they only push feel-good content as well, you are not aware of hardly any of the issues going on in the world right now because they're being nerfed because they just want you to, consume feel-good content. I guarantee you there are things happening in the world right now that you aren't even aware is an issue because it's not being fed through social media feeds. So do you see the problem here? Is that you're not seeing what's really going on in the world because Facebook and these platforms do not care at all about keeping you informed or giving you truth or anything of that nature. They simply want to push content that keeps you engaged, keeps you coming back for more, keeps you on there as long as possible so that you will watch more ads. Now, we could have a benevolent social media platform. Now, imagine a social media platform that instead was pushing truth, was instead focused on, imagine a social media that was not optimized towards being addictive, keeping you on as long as possible, and getting you to watch ads. Because that's what the algorithm is tuned for. Imagine another algorithm that was tuned and optimized for giving you a happy life, bringing you information to keep you informed, bringing you knowledge, bringing you art, bringing you that which contributes to your actualization, giving you information that lets you live a genuinely more fulfilling, purposeful, happy, and actualized and genuine life. And that's not a pipe dream. That's very possible. The only reason why we don't have that is because we live in a bullshit capitalistic society governed by the rich elite that injects a viral system, this algorithmic virus designed to keep you addicted, coming back for more as long as possible, simply to watch ads. And another thing, that's why you have platforms like TikTok. I'm on TikTok. I started making TikToks. Guess what? It's really effective. I have, a video on there that has 1 million views, another video that has, a couple 100,000 views that I just posted a couple days ago. It's really effective. But do you see the difficulty? For those of you who ever gone on TikTok, have you ever just wasted, you're just flipping through TikToks and then you're like, holy shit, an hour has gone by. And you have gained nothing. It's all junk. I mean, there's some good stuff on there, but imagine for the people who are trying to put good stuff on there, they have to condense their information down to 15 seconds or a minute. And not only do they have to condense it down, not only are they constrained by time limitations, but they have to find a catchy way to keep people interested as well. You see, because that's what I have to do. My intent is to spread information. And it's like, oh shit, well, here I am. This is my position. I'm trying to spread information to help humanity actualize, to create a new united society. But I have to reduce it to 15 seconds, and it has to be done in some attention-grabbing, catchy way, and it can't be too controversial. And you see, within all these limitations, it's extremely difficult to work within. Now, of course, I do it. And I mean, I do it effectively. There are ways to do it. But imagine if I could just devote my time to giving just pure information without all these hoops you have to jump through, all this bullshit acrobats that you have to do to try and scoot past the algorithms by being not too controversial and reducing it to 15 seconds and being like a fucking clown, like, oh, look at this, whatever hook you have to put in there so people will watch. It's ridiculous. So it doesn't have to be this way. The reason why we live in a shit world is because we program people with shit programs. Garbage in, garbage out. We have these social media algorithms that run our lives, that feed you shit, and this creates shit people, and then we have a shit world. Like, it shouldn't be surprising. But we could change the world in a single generation, and we could do it so simply. All we have to do is change it. Instead of being optimized to addiction and consumerism and money, all we have to do is introduce a benevolent, altruistic, meritable, and compassionate, and teleological. Teleological means purpose, purposeful. Purpose for what? Purpose for making sure that every single human being has the most meaningful, actualized, and satisfying and thriving life possible. To have the most beautiful and fulfilling experience possible. What's the purpose of today's algorithms? Money, 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 ads, 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 money, money, ads, ads, money. That's it. Like, why are you surprised we live in shit? You shouldn't be. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Like, imagine a world that you're like, if humanity was just fed the coke and heroin all day, every day. Yeah, you're going to have a decrepit world. Well, this is the sort of mental equivalent to that, where you're just upping dopamine constantly, but not in a good way, to keep people addicted, to keep coming back, to make the advertisers happy and make the people at the top richer. And ultimately, you're going to have a terrible, unfulfilling, unsatisfying life. But we could change that in an instant by creating a system that's designed to give us all beautiful existence, and we should all have access to all that we need to actualize ourselves instead of struggling to survive and etc. But let me continue on some more of these points, because you can see, I mean, this is something I'm very passionate about, because as someone who is trying to, and I'm sure everyone who's part of our Hyperion community also feels the pain of trying to spread information out there, but working within the constrictions and constraints of social media. Anyway, let's continue, because I'll just keep going. So Facebook is worse than other social media companies. Whenever we talk about social media and the way it's harmed society, a lot of big tech companies get lumped in together, whether it's Twitter or YouTube or Pinterest. But according to Haugen, Facebook is uniquely awful. Haugen says, I've seen a bunch of social networks and it was substantially worse at Facebook than anything I'd seen before. Haugen has previously worked at Pinterest and Google and insists that Facebook really is worse than the rest of the big tech in substantial ways. Now, yes, I mean, I agree that that's true. You know, again, I'm a content creator. I create content on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and what else? So many platforms. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. But in general, yes, Facebook is worse. All of them are bad, all right? All of them are bad. But Facebook is the worst. So, but that's not an excuse for, like, let's say YouTube. YouTube should be still held accountable, and we still need to restructure everything. YouTube is no innocent. Not innocent. But it is much better than Facebook. So that is true, but it does not give them any kind of free pass or something. Excuse me, of this nature. But let's stop saying that since this piece of content is on YouTube right now. So let's not go down that path. So political parties in Europe ran negative ads because it was the only way to reach people on Facebook. All right. One of the documents Haugen smuggled out of the company shows that political parties in Europe had to start running negative ads to get any engagement on Facebook. Summarizing the position on political parties in Europe, Haugen explained, "You are forcing us to take positions that we don't like, that we know are bad for society. We know if we don't take those positions, and we won't win. We won't win in the marketplace of social media." And again, as a content creator, that's absolutely true. Now, I never create something that I think is going to be negatively impactful. Never, ever, ever. But I do create content that I know waters down the main message, but will get seen more. Like, for example, like one of my videos, what is Jim Carrey really talking about? I would much rather just talk about the ontological nature of reality, how we can build a Hyperion New Terra and a meritocratic and teleological society, how we can build reality according to a living, structured mind, how we can engage more fulfillment through actualization. But guess what? I have to throw Jim Carrey in there so that social media will pick it up and show it to more people. So I completely see where these people are coming from when they're saying they had to create, they had to take positions they didn't like, that they know are bad for society, just to get just so that people will see it. I completely get where they're coming from. Now, again, I do not create content that I think will be bad for society. I do not. But I get the main point of having to jump through hoops in order to please the algorithms. And you can see where someone who, was not altruistic like myself could create negative content just to game the algorithm. Facebook only identifies a tiny fraction of hate and misinformation on the platform. Facebook's internal research shows that it identifies roughly 3 to 5% of hate on the platform and less than 1% of violence and incitement, according to one of the studies leaked by Haugen. And yet Facebook still considers it to be the best in the world at identifying hate and incitement on social media. Facebook takes issue with this characterization. I mean, of course they do. In fact, the company seems to think the real problem is the internet itself, at least according to their statement. Now, Again, this is one of these things where there's two sides to the story. I mean, yes, it's incredibly hard to police the internet and try and get rid of hate speech and whatnot. But Facebook has done a very, very bad job at this. And I think that probably many of you have firsthand experience where you have been banned or blocked by Facebook and you've posted something that you shouldn't have been banned or blocked for at all. This has happened to me. I posted a meme or something. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it, but I posted a meme that there was nothing wrong with it at all. Like nothing, zero. But Facebook blocked me, and I couldn't appeal it I could appeal it, but like there was a button to click appeal, but it goes like who knows who sees it or what happens to it. I don't know. But again, there was literally nothing wrong with this. And I see people all the time who get blocked and put in Facebook jail for posting things that are perfectly fine. And I even see people get blocked for defending themselves against hateful people. I see some people who post hateful comments and they'll reply to that person and say something like, don't post these idiotic statements on my page or something like that. And they'll get banned because of what they said, and the person who posted the original hateful comment won't. And again, this is something I face where you can't imagine I get hateful comment. My inbox is half full of death threats, half full of hate, half full of, and half full of support. And the support I love, and thank you guys so much for that. Your positive remarks and comments and saying how my videos can help. That's why I do what I do. It means a lot. But half of it is hate. Half my comments are hate. And I used to, when Facebook wasn't so strict, I would respond to this stuff. But now I don't. You know why? Because I don't want to risk Facebook banning me or something for defending myself. You see how effed up that is. I have to be careful with the words that I say, Anyway, and number 6 is that Instagram is making kids miserable. Remember that, again, Facebook owns Instagram. And the documents leaked by Haugen shows that 13.5% of teen girls say Instagram makes thoughts of suicide worse, and 17% say it makes their eating disorders worse. And Haugen says, what's super tragic is Facebook's own research says, as these young women begin to consume this eating disorder content, they get more and more depressed, and it actually makes them use the app more. And so on. They end up in this feedback cycle where they hate their bodies more and more. You see the app, it's this feedback loop where you keep coming back to it because you can become addicted to it, but the content that you consume also starts giving you negative body image, negative, so many different, I could go on and on about the psychological damage that it does, but let's continue. And it says, and all that is part of the business model. Facebook is making lots and lots of money from this misery. 7, employees at Facebook aren't necessarily evil. They just have perverse incentives. So Haugen says that the people who work at Facebook aren't bad people, which seems like the kind of thing someone who previously worked at Facebook might say. Just a minute, I have a package at the door. By the way, the package that just is arriving, that's actually a green screen that I'm getting because I'm making TikTok content now. And I'm trying to think, case in point, like, how can I put good content in this 15 to 60 second time window that I have? So I'm getting a green screen so that when I talk, I can have important information also, going on behind me. So again, like even you see the hoops that have to be jumped through. Anyway, so we're talking about what Haugen is saying about the employees, and Haugen says no one at Facebook is malevolent, but the incentives are misaligned. Like Facebook makes more money when you consume more content. People enjoy engaging with things that elicit an emotional reaction. And the more anger they get exposed to, the more they interact and the more they consume. Here's the main point of this, is that and this is really ridiculous. Haugen is like, well, the people at Facebook, they're not necessarily evil. They're not bad people. Their focus is just misaligned. In other words, like, they want to make money. Come on. I mean, yeah, you're a bad person if you are knowingly harming society in a huge way for profit. I mean, that's like the definition of a supervillain, isn't it? Like, come on. Like, what more do you need? What other attribute do you need for it to be considered malevolent? That's pretty damn malevolent. So, yeah, and then but as Haugen said herself, it doesn't really matter whether Zuckerberg set out to make a hateful platform. In reality, he set out to make a website for rating the hotness of women. But that's really neither here nor there. What matters is how the platform is being used and abused today. So yeah, I mean, for those who don't know, that's what Facebook was initially when Zuckerberg created it. It was a website for measuring the hotness of women. That's what it was. That's what it was originally. So do you really think that an individual who would create such a despicable idea and such a vapid idea and such a harmful idea would really end up creating a benevolent website or a benevolent platform? I mean, come on, when it starts off as a hotness level of women meter, this misogynistic bullshit, is it really any surprise that it has morphed into the platform that it has today? No, of course not. It absolutely is no surprise whatsoever. It shouldn't be surprising to anyone. But the main point is that, again, this outage shows the power that one company has, because it keeps acquiring more and more forms of communication, that there were many people in the world that were simply unable to communicate with loved ones and coworkers for a while. And this goes to show that, if they're continuously allowed to grow, they will become more and more powerful until, who knows, they could own, basically all substantial forms of communication. And this kind of power that a company has, not only over communication, but the fact that it designs a program to be addictive and keep you glued to it, because it's not just communication, but it feeds you info. It continuously feeds you information through content, through posts, through videos, through stories, across Instagram, across Facebook, and really realize this is not just a Facebook problem, it's a social media problem in general, across TikTok, across YouTube, across all this. You're being constantly fed, and people are being programmed. That's what they are. They're being programmed. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, some people have the power to break programming and resist, like many of the awesome Hyperions here. We can break that and go out and know what's bullshit and acquire true information. But a lot of people can't. They just are fed what they are fed, and their lives get molded accordingly. And so they are, when you're fed on hate, when you're fed on misinformation, when you're fed on just even if it isn't hate or misinformation, but even just vapidness, or even if it's just feel-good content and you're missing all the real problems of the world, of course we're going to have a shit world. Because we have a shit system that produces shit people that results in a shit world. This is a feedback loop of shit producing shit that gets shittier. That's what we live in. But it does not have to be. And that is our goal in New Terra, is to create a world not driven by capitalists, not driven by advertisers, not driven by the rich elite, not driven by money. That's why this world is shit. But a world that is teleological. That means purpose-oriented, and that is meritocratic, and that is compassionate, and that is led by individuals who have egalitarian goals based on understanding reality rationally. And so social media in and of itself isn't bad. What social media is great at is connecting the world together. I'm able to talk to you right now through this. That's awesome. That's great. But it's being used in a nefarious way, and we can change that. Imagine, again, instead of having an algorithm that optimizes people to stay on as long as possible and to consume as much as possible, to become addicted simply to watch more advertisements. That's it. That's it. That's it. It doesn't matter how much damage they do to you, as long as you watch those advertisements. You know, so they can pocket that 0.15 cent for every ad you watch or whatever bullshit it is. Imagine instead if we had a social media that was optimized in the complete opposite way. We could have a system that is optimized and geared towards giving you the most satisfying life, that works on your psychological well-being, that improves the quality of your life, that gives you access to true information, that gives you access to knowledge, that gives you access to what reality is, that gives you access to therapy, that gives you access to art, that gives you access to, and there's nothing wrong with entertainment, that gives you access to entertainment as well. There's nothing wrong with that. But everything working together to give you the best, most purposeful, most actualized, most fulfilling, and most satisfying life possible. Because you might think that social media, oh, but I love it so much. It's so much fun. It's because you haven't realized what the kind of life you could have. What you could have is so much better. Again, this is just being like hooked on being fed dope 24/7. And yeah, it might feel good, but you're constantly wanting more and more and more and more and more, and it's destroying your body, it's destroying your life, it's destroying your psychological health, it's destroying your mental faculties, it's destroying your relationships, it's destroying everything you can possibly imagine, simply to put more money in the pockets of the rich elite. So instead, we could create an entirely new world that's optimized to create, what is our goal? To create a divine society, a society of gods. That's what we want to do. We want every individual to be as actualized and as fulfilled as they possibly can be, so that living on Earth isn't this like, I hate material reality, it's hell, I want to escape. No, we can build the kingdom of heaven right here and now. That is our kingdom. That is our unconquerable citadel on the hill. That is our new Terra. And we can have that. It's not a pipe dream. Anyone that tells you that it's a pipe dream, they're bullshitting you, and they are part of a problem. The world doesn't have to be shit. And anyone tells you other ways are liars. I'm sorry, I'm tripping over my words. As you can tell, this is something that's very important to me and I'm very passionate about, specifically because I use social media to spread information. And we could have an entirely new world in just one generation. We could transform the earth, transform humanity, and live in a place where you want to wake up in the morning and you were just excited for all the different experiences that you can have, all the things you can experience, all the people that you can meet, all the new knowledge you can gain, what else you can achieve. Like, it would be, instead of being like, oh my God, do I have to get up out of bed and go to the fucking job that I hate, talk to the people I don't like, pretend with a fake smile on my face? That's bullshit. Life doesn't have to be like that. You can be excited about life. We can have a brilliant new world. That's what New Terra is. That's what we're all about. And that is our will that we shall manifest. It will happen. How fast it happens is up to you guys. And us all coming together and working on it together in a united effort. I want to give a big shout out to everyone that supports on Patreon, especially Timothy, Renaissance Fairy, and Jordy. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Anyone that supports on Patreon gets access to our weekly secret live streams. We're having one right after this, and access to our hidden Discord server, the Citadel, and my secret live stream notes, and a lot of other stuff. Anyway, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it, and you're how I'm able to do this.